All right. Looks like we're live. Welcome, everyone, to the sixth episode of the Phantom Zone. For this round, I'm your host. I'm Jason, aka Retro Tigo, and I'm joined always by my buddy Tim, aka the Comic Collector. How's it going, Tim?
What's up, everyone?
Normally, we would be joined by Super Russ 9000, but he's got some other things to do tonight and can't join us, so he may pop in the chat here and there. And if he does, we'll chat with him that way. So so I guess there really hasn't been much news coming out now that all this virus stuff's been going around, but I guess DC has started doing their thing again.
Mm-hmm.
I really haven't been out to do any new books, and I don't think any new Superman books have come out yet, have they?
No Superman, but Justice League came out, and I don't want to spoil anything. But one cool thing about the issue, I'm talking about issue 44.
Okay.
It reminded me, like, if you just get the original Justice League run and flip through the covers, it seems like every fourth or fifth cover they're like fighting animals or giant animals. And that's sort of what this issue was. I mean, there's more to it than that.
Right.
But the gist of that issue is they're fighting giant animals or mythical animals. And I really enjoyed it because to me, it almost felt like I was reading the old Justice League of America.
Right.
But like Superman wise, I know I want to mention that article I sent you. But I always Google the news leading up to the show. And this show and the last two shows, the only thing Superman related popping up in the news is Henry Cavill related.
Okay.
And it looked like there was a picture of him coming out of an office, and the rumor is he may have signed a multi-year or multi-movie, whatever, extension to stay on as Superman.
Cool.
So I'm excited about that. I always wish there was a Man of Steel too.
Yeah, we talked about that, I think, last time. You know, I actually do like him as Superman. I just feel like, I mean, even Zack Snyder's like previous work, he did that. I lost the name of it. Oh, it's not like Bombshell or whatever, but it's the one with the all-female cast.
Is that where the like everything's really happening in her brain and she's crazy?
Yeah, and like everything's super. Everything's.
Is it Atomic Blonde?
No, that was the Charlize Theron.
Okay, I've seen. I didn't watch either one of those movies, but I was like reading when my wife watched them, so they're sort of in my head is the same thing. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I had gone to see that in the theater, and like I think I left with like a headache.
Yeah,
it was so CGI heavy, and it was so like dark, and
it's like a Grant Morrison story, like these dream worlds, and
right.
Yeah, don't have any idea what's going on. It's just, you're supposed to infer the hidden meanings.
Right.
And,
like the premise was great, but the execution. So when he, followed on to Man of Steel, I think I've watched it once all the way through, and I really do need to watch it again now that I hit my big Superman phase or whatever, and see if it's any better. But
one of those movies I rewatched the other day and sort of enjoyed, but I think it was Justice League.
Okay.
Because like both those movies left bad taste in my mouth. The Batman vs Superman and Justice League. But Man of Steel, I don't know if it hit me at the right time, but like I just really love that movie.
That's news. Apparently there's a Snyder cut.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get HBO Max or whatever it is apparently, because Green Lantern's coming, and isn't it like imminently, like real soon? The cut's coming, the Snyder cut.
Yeah, from when it was announced, it's like I think there's already like, I don't know if they're official ads or not, but yeah, it's.
I saw something for it, and it got me excited. It was a Snyder cut, and it was the Atom.
Really?
Like the Atom was in the picture, and I'm like, was there more heroes in the Snyder cut?
Probably. I mean, everyone is like raving, the whole like hashtag like release the Snyder cut or something. Wow. So with any luck, we'll get that.
Wouldn't it be something if it came out and it's like really good? Yeah. And we'd all be sitting here like, why didn't they just release this?
Right. Yeah, I didn't mind Justice League. Man of Steel was a little hard to take. Just, I don't know. There was so much destruction and like,
well, I'm never a fan of CGI fighting.
Right.
But I don't think that movie was as bad as some others, like Doomsday, for instance.
Yeah.
But I don't get why they keep doing like CGI or big villains in movies. Like, think about what's the most popular DC movie of like the last decade, like The Dark Knight.
Right.
Why? Because the villain was so good.
Right.
Like, nobody's like, man, Doomsday or Ares or, Steppenwolf was so awesome.
Yeah, that was the one disappointment I think I had with Wonder Woman was the big villain reveal was just kind of wah wah.
I saw I'm halfway through, so no spoilers from anyone. I started watching the Dark Side Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. Yeah. And at the beginning of it is a preview for Wonder Woman 84, and man, that looks good.
Yeah, I'm super stoked for that.
I was one of those people. I didn't really like Wonder Woman because it felt like a mashup of Captain America and Thor.
Yeah.
And like you said, the villain was sort of like, like Cheetah I could get excited for, but Ares, like,
yeah.
What's up? Life with two YouTubers, Super Us.
Welcome. We're just kind of talking some news real quick before we get into the books tonight.
We do have that one article I thought was interesting. If you want to talk about that real quick.
Yes. Oh, yeah, the kryptonite one. Yes.
Yeah, I found an article this week, and I forwarded it to Jason. I thought it was interesting, and I didn't know it, that kryptonite was actually created to give a voice actor on the radio show a vacation. That was actually how kryptonite was created.
Yeah, which makes total sense because it went on to say that like back then you did the show every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so and that guy was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was like changing his voice from Clark Kent to Superman back and forth.
Yeah. But I thought that was wild too. Like, I also didn't know that when it first came in the comics, it was red.
Yeah.
And it looks like it was red for a long time, because didn't they say it was like issue 60 or 80 that it first appeared, and it was like 160 before it turned green?
Right.
So I just thought that was interesting tidbits. Did you you might not have had cable or not, but you might have still been able to watch this. Did you ever watch that 50s Superman that was on Nick at Night way back when?
Like the George Reeves Superman?
Yeah.
I've seen episodes throughout my life, yeah.
But when I just hear that radio show, it makes me think of that show. And I used to watch that when I was real little. So,
yeah, that was
good memories.
Outside of Christopher Reeves, that'd be my next most sort of recognizable version of like Superman.
Yeah, I think his Clark Kent, the way he looks in the Clark Kent outfit is like spot on.
Yeah.
Like so good. But that's all the news I really have.
What does the red kryptonite do?
Well, that original one we're talking about just acted like regular kryptonite, and they turned to green later. Red, I believe, like takes away. I don't know how I'd phrase this right. You know how you understand something in your head, but saying it out loud, like I think it takes away his inhibitions, maybe.
Sure.
Like it makes him act on all of his lust or instincts, something like that. Yeah. At least originally, that's what it did. Who knows now?
Right. And then last episode, you mentioned what, pink kryptonite?
Yeah, yeah. The pink turns them gay, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So outside of Superman news, I guess the big news for you and I specifically is that for those who don't know, Tim and I both live in the same region of basically the greater St. Louis area. And this past week, they lifted the lockdown most places. And as of next Friday, the LCS that we both rave about in nearly every video is opening back up.
Yeah, my show and tell, or whatever you want to call it tonight, is a book I got from them, because they've been doing Facebook Lives.
Right.
But not only is he opening, if you look up STL Comics on Instagram, his last post, he just bought a huge collection from somebody.
Yeah.
And I don't know if any of that's going to be in store when they open, but
I'm willing to bet he is. And I don't know if you saw the note, but all the long boxes that were on the floors are moving out into booths.
Yeah.
So there's going to be even more. Because I don't know about you, but like I almost never went down on the ground.
No, I glanced a couple times, and like his 50 cent area, I think I hit 90% of on the ground, but no, usually like I hit my budget before I could even get down an aisle.
Yeah.
So it's time to leave.
Yeah, I wonder how he's going to work that. So, for those who don't know, we're talking about our local comic book store. He's essentially, he doesn't stock new books. Although at some point he actually mentioned that I think he was investigating getting like new books in. But I don't know if that's a thing anymore, because he filled up his area.
That'd solve my problems real quick.
Right. So effectively, he built out his own store within an antique mall, and he does, like, I would say 75% of his inventory are dollar books. And then from there he does $2 books, $5 books, and then he has wall books, toys, and things like that. So,
and this place is massive. Like, I can't, outside of like a con, I don't remember ever just going and seeing that many books.
Right.
Much less like 60%, 70, something like that, or dollar or less books. Like, it's insane.
So picture at least, 10, like your standard like card table, the long card tables, probably even more than that, probably 15 or 20 of those filled with long boxes, both, going both sides of the tables. So it's insane.
Yeah, we're hoping, for anyone watching, me and Jason are hoping to meet a week from today at that shop. And I know I'll at some point go live and do a live hunt, and I'll show Jason, and I'm sure Jason's going to record or do something there too. But
yeah, I'll probably record. Yeah,
but it'll be it won't be like normal, because like we said, the stuff will be out, but you'll still get an idea of just how much this guy has. It's crazy.
Right. Just even doing a quick pan around the room.
Yeah. I would record, but I literally can't do videos more than like 8 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then if you edit it, like if you record little clips to edit together, well, then that doubles. So then I could only do like 4 to 5, you know what I mean? So that's why I do so much lives, if anyone wonders.
So tonight, I don't know if that's picking you up. My wife is trying to put my daughter to bed, and she's not having it right now.
Oh, mine just came out of the bathtub and we're right here for a second. I don't know if you can see it, but my wife come and grabbed him.
Yeah. So Tim and I both have daughters roughly around the same age. I think mine is 2 months older than your youngest, I think.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and I have a little over 2-year-old. That's the real problem.
Yeah.
Once they start walking, then it's less screaming but more trouble.
Right. She's getting close. She's getting real close. So anyway, apologies if you hear anything like that. But tonight we're doing maybe yes, wait till they're 19.
Yeah. I feel like dealing with a teenager would be easier.
Right.
Maybe not. What do I say?
Oh yeah, checks for prices. Oh
wow.
As far as I can remember, I've been really lucky with all the comic shops I've visited that they don't price sort of at the counter.
You see that's a big thing for me. Like before eBay, I've been talking about any dealer that would like pull the book out or try to price you, I would never buy from.
Right.
Like never. Like you should know your books enough. And you should have them priced ahead of time.
Right.
And Rush, you just lucked out because I know he just got a first Birds of Prey at his shop not too long ago. Well, I guess it was long ago, not too long before this happened. So.
I'm hoping my daughter is easy too. She's really good for the most part, so
it's 50-50. It's 50% hell and then 50% you can't believe how much you love them. And...
Right. So hopefully the idea is that she'll start accompanying me on dollar bin dives at some point. I've been collecting things here and there for her to just kind of have fun with, like Muppet Babies comics and things like that. So gotta indoctrinate them early.
Yeah,
gotta get them hooked.
Exactly. That's why the kids like my room, because there's so much cartoon imagery, and I hold them up and let them see the toys.
Right.
So they love coming in here.
Yeah, she loves coming in my office as well.
So I got to lean forward to read stuff off my phone.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I could go on. We could do a whole show about LCS owners being asses.
Right.
So you should watch my last couple videos, Sharon. I had some experiences with LCS owners. Hey, library.
Hey, library.
Oh, wow, you changed your name. Okay. Are you added to your name? That's my buddy Chad there.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw his latest video on that he's transitioning into games as well now too.
Yeah, so I saw the video, awesome. But I didn't notice his name had changed till just now. Awesome.
Okay. Yeah. So
before we jump in, I just wanted to point out, I love that we have two such different titles,
right,
years apart. It's like a 30-year difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So tonight we decided to go sort of extended Superman universe, and I picked the Lex Luthor Unauthorized Biography, and then Tim picked the Grayson Annual #2. Which this is great because I know next to nothing about either Grayson or the new 52 Superman, the punk rock called Skinhead Superman. So
I tell you, most of the DCU, which was sort of the end of New 52, was garbage. But this is like, in my opinion, a diamond in the rough.
It was a good read, and there's at least one thing in here, well, a couple things in this one that I don't know if they were direct sort of homages or what have you, but yeah, they reminded me of some other things. So let's do yours since you have it out, and then
I'll do a little background just for people that don't know. During the Forever Evil event, they unmasked Nightwing, and it looked like killed him to the world. So I'm not exactly sure. I think he did die or come back, or maybe he didn't die. But Batman decided it would be better if everyone thought he was dead and asked him to infiltrate this spy organization called Spiral. And that organization was actually trying to get the secret identities of all superheroes. And this was something, when it happened, I hated the idea, didn't read it. This is wrote by Tom King. But weirdly enough, Tom King, I believe, was a spy or something like that.
I think he was in the CIA, yeah.
Yeah. And this Grayson series is actually really good.
Okay.
That being said, now part of what I was saying about Superman, this is supposed to take place after the Apocalypse War and after, like directly after Endgame and Batman. So Superman has had the Doomsday virus, and he's had the radiation from Apocalypse in his body, and both those things, pretty much he's slowly dying and he's slowly being depowered, and his secret identity has been revealed to the world. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
And basically, he wears t-shirts and jeans, rides around on a motorcycle, and fights in like underground UFC fights for money. So that's the background of kind of knowing. Like I said, this is not your average Superman story or Nightwing.
Right.
But it's actually really cool. A lot of good characterization. And I guess I'll just start it off
Sure.
and throw it to you. But it starts off basically a Batman and Robin story. And I kind of like that they started showing him in a full Robin suit, instead of like the circus clothes. And basically, it's a story of Batman and Robin fighting Blockbuster. And these books are both really long, so I won't do a detailed step-by-step.
Sure.
But Superman shows up to help him capture him. And, he gets along with Superman. Batman, of course, doesn't trust him. Well, then it flashes forward. In this book, it made me laugh really hard the first time I read it in a couple places, and it did it again today because I sort of forgot what made me laugh. So we flashed to current day, and basically Grayson had came back to Gotham because, like I said, Batman asked him to do this. Well, for those of you who don't know, Batman lost his memory after Endgame. So he's sort of disappointed here, and he's putting his spiral eyepiece in that actually allows his face to become blurry so nobody could see your face. And it's like a link to the spiral network and everything. You can see the eyepieces talking to him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he's getting ready to leave Gotham, but he wants to do it his way. How do Batman and Robin do things, especially Nightwing? They like to jump around. Nightwing's an acrobat. And this is the first part. I'll get through this first little part and I'll throw it to you. The first thing that made me laugh, he jumps off, and next thing you know, here comes Superman, thinking he's like a suicide jumper, catches him, and Grayson turns off his mask here and startles Superman. Right. So Superman catches him, then gets startled and drops him. And Superman's worrying. You can see him jumping down through here to catch him. And of course, it's Nightwing. He could get down to the ground on himself or himself. And I'll throw it over to you for the next part.
Right. So after they sort of catch up and they sort of reminisce, Superman, who still has his like super hearing, right?
Yeah, he has some of his abilities, but not all of them.
He hears some what appears to be some scraping, and then like all this talk of points.
Reminds me, did you ever watch At Midnight on Comedy Central?
Yeah.
I was a big Chris Hardwick fan. Every time I hear points, it reminds me of that show.
And then so Grayson knows what it means. It's Die Faust der Cain. Yeah, Cain. And it's essentially like this group who kill for points, I guess, right?
Yeah. Like they use their points for status and names.
Yeah, that's right. And of course they happening upon these two guys, it's just a treasure trove of points. Mm-hmm. So that basically sets up the next basically sets up the rest of the story.
One good thing about this book, it don't play around. It just keeps going. Like
right. So they do some initial fighting, and that's where we kind of get to see how Superman is depowered a bit, in that he actually takes a bullet, and that he can't actually, stop a speeding missile, but he has enough strength to kind of knock it out of the sky.
I thought that was fantastic.
Right.
Because remember, we've talked about seeing Superman stop bullets and stuff like that. Well, seeing this Superman just punch a missile down into the ground. I mean, that's fantastic.
So it jettisons him into like a essentially like, is it like a police ball or something like that?
Yeah, some sort of fancy ball.
Yeah, and so they make their way out, and one of the clever things is here's where it shows like Superman has a ride. He has a motorcycle, and that he calls it Supercycle, and then he stopped naming them because he loses so many of them.
Yeah, that's a funny. That plays into a funny line later too.
Right. So here's where I'm getting these like hints of homage, and the first one is so they're being chased on a motorcycle, and they're being chased by motorcycles and like ramshackle jeeps and things like that.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
So immediately comes to mind sort of like Mad Max kind of thing, because it's like this gang of like, you know, bare-chested dudes with goggles on and like driving all different kinds of like dune buggy-esque like cars and things like that. But I don't know, have you ever read the Akira manga or watched the movie?
Believe it or not, and for those who know, I'm a huge manga anime guy too. I've never read it, and I've only watched a little bit of, I don't know if it was the movie or show.
Sure. So there was one movie based off of the manga, and that's all there's been so far as animated. So at the very beginning of that movie, there's the general idea is that they're street gangs, right? And there's the
I remember like the motorcycle chase, yeah.
So that's what this reminds me of. And even some of the panels here, and unfortunately I only have digital, so I can't pop it up on the screen. But it's roughly, let's see if they have page numbers. It's where the dude like is neck and neck with him, and then he like flips over the bike and like drinks the
like that's my other probably two favorite parts of this book.
So the topmost panel here is very reminiscent of Akira in that there's a shot in that movie specifically where like a big accident happens because someone's standing at the far end of like an under construction highway, basically.
Yeah.
And so in this one, they run into, you know, the guy actually has superpowers and he smashes into the bike and like makes him flip and stuff like that. But yeah, when I was reading this and saw the artwork, I was like, oh man, somebody really loved that bike chase scene from Akira. So
it's something I never knew, and it kind of helped me enjoy this book. I guess there's whole huge communities on the internet that are obsessed with Nightwing's butt, if you will.
Really?
And I guess he's considered one of the sexiest superheroes around. And that writing actually comes in. The first time I really noticed it really being written in, the homage to that culture, was Grayson. But like the first person to get neck and neck with him, see if I could show it.
Let me see. I've never actually popped.
He unblurs his face and is just like, how you doing?
Yeah.
Then she sees his face and Rex. And the other part I really like is on this page. Superman knocks this guy off the bike. He drinks this drink that gives him super abilities and just runs and jumps back on the bike.
Yeah.
Like the next panel, they're just turning around like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
What? But that's what the guy that, oh yeah, there's where you mentioned right there. He's drinking that drink too and punches the bike. So
after this sort of ensues, you know, Blockbuster meets up again, and they have another little tussle here and there, but essentially they skedaddle, and they make their way to one of Batman's old safe house bunkers, I guess.
Yeah, he has little mini bat caves scattered throughout Gotham.
Right, and this one looks like it's been put through the ringer, so doesn't use it anymore. It looks like it's in like a junkyard.
Yeah, it looks like. Of course, I don't know. I'm sure a lot's happened to Batman right before this with Endgame and all of that. So his safe houses may have been destroyed,
right.
somewhat.
But it's from here that we find out that like the origin of Blockbuster, which was good for me because I didn't know it.
Yeah, he originally was almost like a Kingpin-ish, at least
okay.
what I know of Kingpin-ish for Nightwing. Like this big, super powered-ish crime boss that was like one of Nightwing's main villains.
Right.
And he kind of changed since then. And I think I'm actually talking about maybe a second or third Blockbuster. I think the original Blockbuster was created by Lex Luthor to fight the Justice League or something way back when.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But as far as Nightwing's interaction with the Blockbuster, that was the beginning.
Okay.
So,
and then from there, and maybe you can talk a little bit more about this, is that Superman suggests as a way to sort of defeat that gang is that they get a hold of Lex Luthor and get his involvement.
Yeah, there's really not a lot left in this book. There's a lot of talking between Grayson and Superman, even sort of hinting at for those who don't know, which is really cool to bring this up on the show, considering how much I love Nightwing. When he was Robin, he actually was told the story of Nightwing and Flamebird by Superman.
That's right.
And that's what eventually influenced him to be Nightwing. And they've remained good friends because, Nightwing became his own person and he would team up with Superman or interact with Superman outside of Batman.
Right.
So you get a lot of sort of flashback to the original story we saw in this book when he was still Robin, like the talks that were happening then. And of course, when they call Luthor, and we don't necessarily have to hit everything they say, but basically why I love Lex Luthor as a character so much, he's using technology and knows, okay, well, that's Superman in the bunker. There's someone wearing spiral technology, so that has to be, Grayson, and everyone's supposed to think Grayson's dead. Lex Luthor knows he ain't. So Luthor sends a drone that basically brings the device that Batman initially used at the beginning of the book to capture Blockbuster, and you don't actually get to see the fight. Just when that device shows up, you see the flash of light. Luthor sent his drone. He's like, give me a good fight, because I could just kill you.
Yeah.
And it flashes to the police finding all these people. And I thought it was another homage to continuity. We haven't had a haul this big since who was around, because Batman's gone at this time. And you can actually see. Sorry, it's always hard for me to show.
Yeah.
Right there. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's Commissioner Gordon, who's actually Batman. And they refer to that suit as the Rookie. And he's in it right now. But I've shown that action figure a lot. And that was during DCU2. Commissioner Gordon was just Batman.
Right.
And there's just a little bit more talking, a little flash of Bruce Wayne. And that's pretty much the end of the book. So you want to, why don't you give me your thoughts and grade on this book? And then I will, and we'll jump into yours.
Yeah. I really liked it. Again, it's my first experience with both Grayson and the New 52 Superman when he basically looked like this. I think I didn't do much New 52. I did the Flash, I did Deathstroke, and some Justice League, Earth 3, that kind of stuff. But I think I did the first maybe few issues of Superman when it first came out. So to get this kind of exposure where he's like losing his powers and all that kind of stuff, it was interesting to see.
It's those stories, they're not the best, but there's some little nuggets and interesting stuff in there.
Yeah.
What really kind of hurts them now is they're doing it all again.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, I give this, I don't know, I would give it a B, having never read anything like it before.
Yeah, that's something we need to come up with as a grading system. But whenever I started doing shows like this one and Fanboys, I'm not against doing the big stories, the Dark Side War, the death of Superman, stuff like that. But I even did a one-shot, an Elseworlds one-shot on Fanboys called Superman Inc. Just a single issue Elseworlds. And this book, to me, it's in that same regards. This isn't a key. This isn't part of a big story. This is a book that most collectors, most people wouldn't care about, but it's a fantastic story. And sort of what we said, it has characterization in it, but it moves really fast. It has really good action, like acrobatics, the fighting.
Yeah.
And it has comedy. I mean, it has everything you would want in a book. And like you were just saying, you're giving it a B. You don't even necessarily have to know Grayson or this DCU Superman to enjoy it.
Right. Outside of a few, initial facts like his eyepiece and things like that.
Yeah, they don't overwhelm you with it.
Yeah.
But they let you know. Yeah.
Right.
And it's one of my favorite little one-shot issues that I could think of. Like, I've been thinking of this book since we came up with this show.
Right. So that's, I would consider that an issue that I could pick up and potentially want to learn more about, because I'm not coming into like a middle of a story.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, now I got to go back and pick up 4 other issues to get the first the full story of it.
That's what's great about like an annual or a special.
Right. And like you were saying, like it had just enough to tie it into what's going on in the main world outside of it being an annual, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was great. So that as a juxtaposition to the next book.
we are doing like a 180-degree turn in every way, like age, everything, tone.
So this week I chose Lex Luthor, the Unauthorized Biography, and again, like we did with the Grayson Annual, we won't go page by page by it, but this was a book that I remember seeing the ads for in comic books, and my big thing is like I didn't really know if it was a comic book or if like someone actually made like a novelization.
Yeah, you said that last episode, and I was just sitting here thinking, like, I know I've read it, but when you said novelization, I'm like, is it?
Right.
Like it'd been so long, yeah.
Hey, Johnny DC and Genome.
What's up, guys? Thanks for coming.
So when I saw this, one of our local comic shops was having a sale, like an anniversary sale a few months back. So when I was browsing through the, general Superman titles, this came up and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember this book, so I pulled it. And then I quickly found out that it was indeed a graphic novel. I
like these prestige one-shots DC did. It's almost like a hardcover.
Right.
But it isn't.
It's like square bound or whatever, however that's called.
This is just how that Superman Inc. I was mentioning is too. It's like a thick little original story comic.
Yeah, so this would have been probably on spinner racks, with, let's see, 1989. So yeah, this was something, I don't know if anybody remembers B. Dalton or Walden books.
How much was this? Oh wow, $4 in 1989. That's pricey.
Yeah. And this has to be, along the lines of one of the first sort of graphic novels, I guess you'd say, or something to be called a graphic novel.
Around that time, maybe from 87-ish forward, DC started doing stuff like The Killing Joke, Batman the Colt, Superman Earthstealers. I think those were some of the very first ones that were in that type of format. So
cool. So this is, reading the title of it, The Unauthorized Biography, you think it's going to be sort of a, to use The Godfather as a term, The Godfather 2 sort of like Don Corleone like history lesson, and it does have some of that in it. But what this is really the story of a guy who's like, a reporter who's down on his luck.
Yeah, I was just laughing because I read that. If you see me lean forward, it's because I'm reading the chat.
A a guy, a reporter who's down on his luck. His bills are way past due. He's a drunk. He's drinking every night, so he's looking for the next big story that's going to make him some money. So you first see him, and he's kind of well.
I'm trying to remember his name, and I was trying to find it.
Yeah, it's Peter Sands.
Okay.
So the book opens with Lex Luthor and one of his playmates, shall we say, in his ski chalet, and she brings him a video cassette, and on that video cassette is the interview tape of Clark Kent being interviewed in connection to a murder of this other reporter. And from there, the book sort of flashes between past, present, and then a lot of the investigation of Lex Luthor in relationship to he's writing this biography. So essentially what happens is, this guy's down on his luck. He's looking for money. And so he calls all the former places that he used to work for, and no one will give him a shot. No one will trust him with any money. There was a mention that he showed up drunk to interview Don Johnson one day and puked all over him, and they were dodging his handlers for weeks after that.
Yeah.
So right after all of that happens, he gets a phone call from another place, and they're like, "Hey, we remember that you did this tell-all book about Marilyn Monroe. Do you have anything else like that?" And so he quickly rummages around on his coffee table, and he picks up a newspaper or whatever, and it's got something about Lex Luthor on it, and he just blurts out the first thing. He's like, "Yeah, I'm working on this biography for Lex Luthor. It's unauthorized biography." And they're like, "Great, what do you need?" And he's like, "Well, I need some money. I need some to do some research and stuff." And I found the only sort of weird part about this is the story that I found was they just willingly gave him a bunch of money.
Yeah, because at first he was calling it showed him he called a newspaper, and it looked like he worked his way down to maybe even a girly magazine, a nude magazine,
right?
And then all of a sudden a book company calls him,
oh,
you're an author too, and I saw that and I'm like, how is this guy so broke if he was
right?
Had all these successes.
So that really sort of sets up the sort of the theme and the rest of the story. So essentially, we have two concurrent stories running through the book. We have Clark Kent, who is being questioned by cops. Basically, essentially someone has framed him, clearly because it's Clark Kent, with the murder of this reporter. And basically the idea is that this reporter got in too deep investigating Lex Luthor, and he wound up dead. And scrawled next to his body in his own blood was spelled out Clark Kent. So what you have is you have Lex Luthor, who is philanthropist extraordinaire, who can do no wrong, versus Clark Kent basically saying well, I didn't do it. I can't tell you why I didn't do it, but I didn't do it.
Yeah, so Clark Kent, the reason they're after him, also, he was known to be the last person to see him alive.
Right, correct.
Because this guy got so deep, he's the only one that'll believe me is Superman. And Clark Kent is known to, have access to Superman. And sort of how this book goes, it is, the unauthorized biography, as it's flashing between Clark and him, he's finding stuff out about Luthor.
Right.
And one thing that sticks out to me, going all the way back to childhood, at least how I had always sort of seen him perceived, was that his dad was always rich and had money.
Yeah.
And this, it's his parents were poor and he despised them. and had them killed for insurance money.
Right.
So, I mean, this guy's slowly learning the history of Luthor. And, I mean, that's the thing that sticks out to me. The rest is just sort of pointing out his personality. Like, he was ruthless in business.
Right.
You know, he would hire people to investigate or make up lies to take down competition. He would hire minorities and stuff like that to do the dirty work so he would never be connected to, like, gangs or drugs or so forth. So
right. So, you know, all the while this is going on, Clark's sitting there, and I wish, like, the stream had, like, sort of share your screen options, and I'd show, like, the digital version so we can get clear shots of it. But, you know, it's like the technology at the time and all that stuff, it makes for some really great panels. And if you follow me on Instagram, I posted a couple today. Sorry, one sec. Clark Kent basically has to plead, you know, his innocence as best he can. And sorry, I'm just looking for this one panel that I posted. So as you know, as the story progresses, this reporter guy, and I keep forgetting his last name or first name, Peter Sands, he gets a hold of Clark and effectively says, "Hey, your best friend's a Superman. I need Superman." And Clark's like, "Well, why don't you show me what you got?" And he's like, "No, like once Superman gets here, I'll show you whatever you want." So at that point, he's like, "Okay, well, I'll go get Superman." And at that exact time, as he's leaving this guy's apartment, he hears that there's this, like, huge earthquake.
Oh, I happen to be right on that page.
There you go.
Yeah.
In Tokyo. And so the only part that you see Superman is that part where he's streaking. Right.
Yeah, streaking off into the sky.
Streaking off to take care of. So that is what is interesting about when Clark is being interviewed, is that he couldn't produce an alibi because he couldn't let everyone know that he was Superman. Mm-hmm. And so I found that really interesting, that he couldn't reveal his secret no matter what, even if it would, like, free him, you know, basically.
That was something else I thought was a little unreasonable. Like, well, you went to call Superman and Superman didn't show up for 6 hours.
Right.
I'd be like, who do you think I am?
Yeah.
You think Superman just, you know, shows up the second I call?
Right.
You know? Like, Superman was doing something, you know?
But what was interesting is they were like, "What were you doing?" He was like, "I was at home reading a book."
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah, so he should just been like, "Well, I contacted Superman and went about my business."
Yeah.
You know, like, I ain't this guy's, you know, protector. He didn't want nothing to do with me. I did what he asked.
So the police, the investigators at this point they're not believing anything that he says. Clark says, you know, they're saying his alibis don't hold up, and it really makes it seem like, you know, once you get further, that's the panel that I was going to show right there. Here, I'll bring you up here.
Oh, sorry. I just happen to be holding it, what you're looking for. Because over here is where Superman flies off.
Right.
So, yeah.
So
you can see he's sort of desperate now.
Right. And so what we're seeing here is Superman sort of in real time, and then next to it, Lex Luthor watching Superman's deposition on VHS.
VHS.
Yeah.
Yeah, think about, they're mad because it took Superman, you know, so much between when Clark Kent left, Superman showed up. They didn't have cell phones back then.
Right.
What if Superman's not next to his phone?
Yeah.
Like, come on now.
Yeah, I mean, Superman's a busy dude.
Yeah. Like, it's not like Clark has a JLA communicator.
Right. Right.
How do you expect Clark to meet Superman? Like, he might have had to wait a day, you know?
Yeah. So while all this is going on, you know, he's God, I've said his name like a dozen times and I still forget.
I keep forgetting it too.
Yeah, Peter Sands, he's investigating further. He's trying to catch up with the last.
We're reviewing a book and we just can't remember the main character for nothing.
And I've read it twice in less than 24 hours and I still can't remember like last name.
Yeah.
And I think this is the only, like, clearly because he dies or whatever, but like this is the only book he shows up in, right? He's not like a main character that they like brought in for this one-off like story or whatever. Or
I don't remember him.
Yeah, so so the like his sort of investigation into Luthor, continues. He interviews some living witnesses to Luthor's past, and all the while, what I thought was interesting is there are panels of him being tailed through the in and out of the subway, like in the diner that they go to, that he and one of his contacts go to, and as he's learning more, he's definitely being tailed, and
and they show this guy tailing him after he received a phone call saying, "We don't like what you're doing. You need to back off."
Right.
So
this book is really like a thriller movie or like a detective movie. So
it's this guy. You're learning Luthor's story through this guy and investigating it. I do like at one point he says something like, "I don't have proof," or something like that, but I'm a journalist. I don't need it.
Right.
So like, what? Isn't that your job, is to have the proof?
Right. So effectively, he digs in too deep, right? And so he arrives home one night to his apartment, and that was the night that he contacted Clark Kent, and Clark was like, "All right, I'll go get him. I'll go get Superman, or I'll contact Superman." So there's a knock at his door a few hours later. He opens the door, willingly.
There's also something important to notice. His apartment was ransacked, but the evidence wasn't took. That plays in later, and he contacts Clark.
Right. Yeah. So at this point, he has hid his evidence in the upper bowl of your standard toilet in a Ziploc baggie, as you would do, right?
Yeah. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, right. That's where you hide everything, right?
I've never been desperate enough to hide something in a toilet, but whatever.
So he opens the door, and it's effectively, Luthor's goons, and they gas him and bring him to the Luthor. And, at that point, the jig is effectively up, and Luthor, basically says like, your investigation's over. I can't allow this book to be printed. And what's interesting is he what does he say? He has a term for what it something about being like he's killing the book or something like that.
You will be paid a kill fee. This project of yours is finished. But since you've gone to so much trouble, I thought I might at least answer some of your questions.
Right. So that was an interesting term he used, because clearly you knew what was going to happen. But it's at this point also that Luthor casually brings up that he's destroyed all the evidence, and hiding the evidence in a toilet is like hiding 101, right? It's like the most basic spot. Anyone hides everything.
It's like one step up from under your mattress.
Right.
Maybe right below the cookie jar. I don't know.
Right. And so, he asked Luthor, did you kill your parents? And it was interesting because he takes a panel basically to sit there and think about whether or not he wants to say anything. And he's like, basically like, yeah, like I did. They were essentially worthless, human beings basically. And I quickly was smarter than them, growing up and stuff. And so, he learns all of that. And Luthor's like, all right, that's all I got. So we'll see you later. And the guys, what is important is that Luthor sort of lets slip that, he's dealing with competition, and he has to deal with it sometimes in extreme godlike ways. And he mentions like he's having trouble with a particular corporation in Japan.
Yeah. So,
you connect the two together, and that the big earthquake or whatever in Japan was caused by Lex. Both.
So that would keep Superman preoccupied while he was dealing with our main character.
Right. So really is, I found it to be in some interesting twists on, basically on this take of like a fairly standard story of crime boss story,
Yeah.
And then, they basically take him away, take him back to his apartment, and gut him like a fish.
Yeah, and draw Clark Kent's name with his finger. And
right.
So basically, sorry to cut you off, but basically we tie the other connection here because it shows him writing Clark Kent's name in blood with his hand, and then a lawyer shows up from Luthor, basically with evidence that they have the murder weapon. It don't have Clark Kent's fingerprints, but it has we didn't matter, a kid that beat Luthor up as a kid.
Right.
He mentioned 2 kids that beat him up. One was willing to work with him as an adult, one wasn't. Well, that one's getting framed for murder now.
Right.
And basically saying like Luthor's getting you off now, but he wants information on Superman.
Right. And
so he's trying to put the push on Clark Kent.
Right. And it's the typical sort of, Godfather type of position where it's like, someday Luthor will call you.
Yeah.
And at that point, you will divulge your information.
And it is sort of important to note, this was more of an adultish, like this ends with Luthor's plaything from the beginning coming back in lingerie.
Right.
And it really does have language and terminology that's more adultish than the books of the time.
Right. And that may be one of the reasons why it was presented in sort of this format, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like the graphic novel format instead of, a couple issue arc or something like that.
Well, I think like for DC, like Dark Knight was like the first one that was like that. And then I think Killing Joke came. And then we started getting more stuff like the Green Arrow Longbow Hunters we reviewed on Fanboys was around this time. And like you're saying, it is all the more prestige type minis that ain't part of the main series or nothing.
Right. So overall, what did you think?
I enjoyed it. Like I said, it was one of those I couldn't remember it at first. And then when I read it, I quickly remembered what it was. And I like how it's presented. Like you pointed out, not necessarily knowing what this was going to be when you saw ads.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is something you don't see in comics a lot anymore. A story told this well.
Right.
Told from this third story perspective. The art was okay. In some places, it was fantastic. In some places, it was like when they were killing him or gassing him, the thugs, it was sort of hard to tell what they were doing.
See, I liked that, but I also come from like a graphic design background where stuff like that is like cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this is especially for the time frame this is from, this is really good. I'd give it, like if we were going on a 5-star rating, I'd give it 4.5 out of 5.
Right.
Definitely a really good story, told really well in a creative way, something you just don't see a lot.
Yeah. So I would agree, wholeheartedly. I started reading this last night for the very first time, and again, like even from the very first page, like I didn't know how this was going to go, but by like halfway through, I was like hooked. I was like, oh my God, like this is great. And like you were saying, the art in some spots is, ho-hum and whatever, but there again, like as I was reading it, because I generally stick to like the flat art of the past. Like I'm not super into the super textured art that really came, with like New 52 and all that kind of stuff, and like newer books. So I think it's Adam Kubert's coloring and like all that for it. Like as I kept reading it, and again as I reread it today, like there are just some really like gorgeous panels and some really like impactful panels on here with like the light and the dark, and like the fact that the entire story is black page instead of your standard white page.
Well, really even helped. What you're talking about, where it shows Clark saying he's guilty in real time, and then on the VHS on the TV, how many stories nowadays go for that type of what's the word I'm even looking for? Like art, like being artistic with it,
right?
Like something you would see in a professional movie by a well-known director. The type of
right
fades in and out and cut scenes and stuff. Like, yeah, I mean it's top notch. You just don't see that anymore.
Yeah,
at least not with DC. I can't speak for anyone else.
I was reading, not to get off topic here real quick, but like I don't remember what I was reading recently, like a new book, and the page was so garbled with their panel structure that I couldn't tell what was even going on the page.
Well, even now, it's sort of like if there's any story at all, it's how depressed the character is.
Right.
And like the action whenever they're fighting, like the fight scenes we saw in Grayson, you don't even have that now. Now it'll be like them posing with a bubble of them arguing their philosophies. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
but yes, pleasantly surprised by this. Like I said, I read it twice within 24 hours. So that's great by me. And this will definitely, stick around because I thought it was an interesting take on Luthor.
Well, yeah, if you don't want to read a comic more than once, then it isn't a good comic.
Right.
And I know I'm one to speak because I like to collect full runs and stuff, and you end up getting stuff you don't necessarily like.
Right.
But I originally intended only to buy stuff that I would read over and over.
Right.
And I'd say a good chunk of my collection is that, but like all the time I'll be thinking about wanting to read, this series or that series, and I'm bringing all this up just because you said you read it twice in a day, enjoyed it both times. That's something you don't see a lot either, like really enjoying something. So
yeah, like speaking of that, I've read the entire, speaking of New 52, I read the entire Savage Hawkman run, within a couple of days, and like put it away. But now I'm thinking about going back and reading it, even though I have, 2 full short boxes of Superman comics I need to get through first.
Yeah, I've got so much to read. My new pickups. This is all my Adams. It's the whole first run you and me have talked about, and a bunch of I forget what it's called, the all new Adam.
Oh yeah.
I got like 5 or 6 of those.
Yeah.
But like I want to read this, and I'd been reading Hellblazer. I have the boxes behind me are Hellblazer. Like you probably can't even see them directly. And I'd read some of those and get something new, and it's like, well, you got to read the new stuff and put it away. And it's like, man, I just want to read Hellblazer and then read Adam. Forget the new stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm like OCD. It bothers me.
Right.
If it ain't put away. Well, if I put it away before I read it, I'm gonna forget.
Yep.
Especially if you're putting it in 12 different boxes. Like, forget about it. You're never gonna read those. And then it's like you're wasting money,
Right. All right. So those were the 2 books for tonight, and I completely spaced on finding something to show, but I do have something to show. I just gotta lean around here and get it.
Sure.
So I've been looking, and these were on my last haul video. I've been looking forever for this series of DC. They're the, I guess, 3¼ inch.
The missions, I think they're called.
Yeah. I picked up the Flash, and I finally picked up Superman. They've had, everywhere I've gone for like the last 4 or 5 months, they've only had the Batman series of that. And so finally last week Target had these 2, so I snapped them up real quick.
That was actually sort of the beginning of my action figures I picked up, because there's, you're walking through Walmart and it was like out in the aisle.
Yeah.
There's like a little Nightwing figure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when do you ever just see Nightwing?
Right.
So of course I picked him up, and I had to get Robin and Batman. Well, like online, you're seeing like the ones you have and a bunch of other characters.
Yeah.
But when I go to like Walmart or Target, all I'm seeing is the Batman line.
Right. Yeah, because there's a Superman in his black suit, his like a reborn suit or whatever from Death of Superman 2. So hopefully, I'm hoping it's just like a distribution issue or something, that these are finally starting to come out in force or in, like fully. Because all I see is the Batman stuff, and occasionally like a Green Lantern, McFarlane Green Lantern, or occasionally like the 12-inch, like back there, the like the 12-inch like 2 points of articulation ones.
Yeah. Well, the McFarlane ones are the ones to get, and Walmart, at least the stores around here, you see the same thing, like the animated and the issue 1000.
Right.
You're lucky to see a Harley or a Batgirl or something.
Right. So what did you have?
I have a couple things. I got this, and something I've been thinking about doing on Instagram. I think I'm just gonna do real quick here, because you mentioned Black Suit Superman. But I got this on the online sale.
Oh yeah.
The comic book store we were talking about.
Yeah.
I had Googled it because I had asked him what it was at first, because I was seeing it, and then Googled it, and I thought it said First Zod when I Googled it. Turns out it's not First Zod, it's the second appearance of Zod and the first appearance of Bizarro Luthor.
Oh wow.
And it's in Mylar, it's probably hard to see, but this is Adventure Comics 293. And of course the Legion's on here too. But I'm gonna pick my camera up and show you. I got a little Superman set up in my figures. But I got can you see that well? Because I can't see what I'm showing.
Yeah.
I got red and blue and black, Superboy Prime, Luthor. You can see McFarlane in the air back there, and then Earth 23 and Kingdom Come Superman too.
Yep. Yeah, those are great.
But I just love having the different colored suit Supermans.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know I said I was going to stop at 1996 in terms of my run for Superman, but I am interested in dipping into the red and blue Superman just a little bit, just to see what was going on with it.
I got a couple. I don't know if it's red or blue, but through the mystery box I get, every time I get a Superman I've been sticking it in your pile, and I don't think it's that many, but you're going to get some newer Superman.
Right on.
Like probably early 2000s-ish, I think, are what a lot of those are.
Cool. Yeah.
And I kept thinking, if I give these to him, you think he'll be like, well, then I'll collect up to what Tim gave me.
I don't know. I'm already like out of space as it is.
Yeah, and Superman is so much.
Yeah.
Because he had 5 titles going, so every Wednesday.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched my last Superman video, but I showed the Man of Tomorrow. For those that don't know, it could be confusing if you buy it. Like, let's say you have the whole run because it don't move, in line.
Yeah.
But that's what it was. Every time there'd be a 5th week or a 5th Wednesday, the Man of Tomorrow would come out.
Yeah, I think issues like 1, 2, and maybe 3 are in the run that I collected. Yeah.
But yeah, if you know anything about old Superman, I know you do, but for people that are watching, when you see the triangle, then you know a single series isn't going to follow a line.
Yeah.
It follows the triangle across everything.
Yeah, that's when I was hunting, like at, STL or whatever. It's like I'm not even looking at the issue number, or even like if it's Superman Action or Adventures, I'm looking for the diamond.
Yeah.
The Superman shield.
Yeah.
And first of all, what year it is, and second of all, what number it is.
I kind of am glad that's gone, and I kind of miss it because it's a pain in the butt to go back and reread.
Yeah.
But like when it's happening, it's nice to have that continuity across all the titles.
I made a decision early on when I was organizing that I was organizing by the diamond.
No, I have everything by.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty much each one of those titles, the main ones fit into a long box. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, if I ever want to go back and read this is going to be horrible. So I'm just going to go by the diamond. So yeah.
But that's why I don't mind trades either, because then you don't have to mess up your old comics or try to get to them, but you could read that story at once.
Yeah. So all right, man. Well, we're over hour.
Yep.
So, I guess at this point, yeah, we're done. Well,
this is a good episode.
Yeah, thanks for everyone who came to the live stream and everyone who watches, afterwards when it's archived. I was trying to find the right term for that.
Yeah, replay.
Right. So, I've been your host, Jason, aka Retrotigo. Clearly, you're on my channel, so you know that. But I am also on Instagram at Retrotigo.
Yep, and I'm the Comic Collector on YouTube. Tim _ the Comic Collector on Instagram.
Right on. Well, thank you so much, Tim, for the time tonight. You. It's always a good time.
Yeah, it was fun tonight.
Yeah, we'll probably see you back in about 2 weeks, and we'll maybe have our reviews a little bit, or review scale figured out by then.
Yeah, and you'll probably see us together a week from today too, if everything works right. So
next Friday, for those who came late and are sticking around, what we consider to be our LCS, which is a absolutely fantastic store. Dollar books and all that kind of stuff, is reopening in the St. Louis area next Friday. So we're gonna try to hit that up and support that guy.
Check both our channels, and you could probably see the whole
right
the whole hangout between the two of us.
Right. So, all right, guys, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for stopping by, and have a good weekend. Have a good Memorial Day weekend. Hope you guys
Happy
get out.
Memorial Day.
Yeah, hope you guys get out and do something fun, and we'll see you in the next one. See you guys.